Submitted for your approval, a man, sitting alone, surrounded by streaming services, reboot announcements, and original movies that somehow feel strangely familiar. A man who begins to notice that every killer doll, every evil AI, every parallel dimension, every apocalyptic nightmare may have already existed decades ago in black and white. Tonight, we enter a dimension not only of sight and sound, but of reboots. A journey into a land where Hollywood keeps digging through old television episodes, like raccoons in a dumpster behind a blockbuster video. You unlock this door with a streaming password. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of recycled ideas, a dimension of reused plots. You have just crossed over into, frankly speaking. Have you ever had that feeling that you have seen a movie before or know it comes too close to resembling another one? Some writers, directors, and studios think that just rebranding a movie a certain way will come off as an original idea, but they'll explain that it comes from mostly dreams or something they saw walking down the street. Well, today we are going to explore some of those movies that didn't give credit where credit was due. Now, I'm not saying these movies are blatant ripoffs. Well, maybe one is. But these are works that weren't recognized as the inspiration for some of our favorite movies, particularly when it comes to old Twilight Zone and Outer Limit episodes. I'm not adding remakes or reimagines because at least some of them are included in the credits as a based on acknowledgement. So let's start with the biggest debatable ripoff in Hollywood. There are plenty of videos about this on YouTube, so check them out and form your own opinion. James Cameron said his idea for Terminator came from a fever dream while sick in Rome about a metal robot crawling at him with a kitchen knife, which seems original enough, but when it comes to production, it closely resembled an Outer Limits episode called Soldier, written by Harlan Ellison. Here's a side-by-side comparison right now. And even the plot comes in a little tight, but let's hear what Mr. Ellison has to say about this.
Well, he had been on the set as they were shooting, and he was talking to Cameron, and he said, "Where'd you get the idea for this?" And Cameron said to him, "Oh, I ripped off a couple of Ellison's short stories and a couple of Ellison's Outer Limits segments. I mean, he used my name." So we went to, at this point, we went to Hemdale and Orion, and we said, "I'm afraid we got him with the smoking gun. Now, do you want to do something about this, or do you want us to whip your ass in open court?" I mean, I'm perfectly happy to do it either way. Well, they settled.
Clearly, even if Cameron was joking, you shouldn't say things that knowing it could possibly get back to an interesting party. Well, it was settled out of court, and every version of Terminator has the acknowledgement of Ellison's work at the end of the credits. Cameron denies any wrongdoing to this day. Moving on to one of the greatest slashers of all time, but was the idea already made prior? Wes Craven said Nightmare on Elm Street was conceived by reading about SUDS, sudden unexplained death syndrome. Charles Beaumont wrote about this 25 years earlier when a man believed that if he falls asleep, he'll die, and following him is a beautiful woman that is ultimately the instrument of his death. We all had dreams about ourselves dying, nothing new, but the creative works come pretty close here. Richard Matheson is one of the most celebrated writers of our time, lending ideas and works both to the Outer Limits and Twilight Zone. But did you know he wrote a story called Little Girl Lost for a 1962 episode for the Twilight Zone, where a mother hears her daughter's voice but doesn't see her? After some investigation and from the family and a friend realize she is trapped in another dimension. sound familiar? If you said Poltergeist, you'd be correct. Steven Spielberg wrote it with others and produced the movie, which basically also has a shot resembling the retrieval of Carol Ann, but with the father instead. I understand the episode doesn't have the aspects of ghosts in it, but certainly this part of the movie of the rescue is blatantly copied. Steven said Twilight Zone would help shape his career, and if you know his history, you'll believe it. Moving back to slashers for a moment, did you know that when people were thinking about dolls coming to life to kill people, usually it was imagining a ventriloquist's dummy doing it all? But Charles Beaumont and Jerry Soule wrote The Living Doll about a toy coming to life and ultimately killing a verbally abusive stepfather. A concept uncredited for inspiring child's play, but maybe I'm grasping at straws here. But there are some out there who agree with this. Joe Hill is certainly his father's son. Stephen King has admitted that Twilight Zone was an inspiration for a lot of his stories. But maybe Joe can't admit that the same admiration rubbed off on him. Humans have tried to communicate with the dead with various objects, but Richard Matheson wrote about it for an airing of the Twilight Zone called Night Call, where a woman received a call from a man which she realized was her dead fiancé. Different plots and different twists, of course, but similar nonetheless to Joe Hill's Black Phone. Have you ever heard of Endo Binder or Isaac Asimov? Some of you probably have. Isaac said that his inspiration by Endo, which is really the pen name for Earl and Otto Binder, but gives credit for the writing of I, Robot first. The 2004 Will Smith movie doesn't give them any credit at all. Both deal with the same subject, but the Outer Limits episode dealt with more of the trial of Adam the robot, who consciously is aware and is on trial for killing his creator. The Twilight Zone in 1962 aired the Ray Bradbury script of I Sing the Body Electric, which dealt with the loss of a motherly figure and the father of 3 children going to a factory to replace the emptiness with a grandmother-like robot. Have you ever seen its facsimile? AI, artificial intelligence, in 2001 deals with David not replacing but filling a void for a son that has a medical issue. Some may argue Steven Spielberg, who wrote the screenplay from a Brian Aldiss short story, but I say Ray Bradbury did it first and is also a happier version. And we all know how much Steven Spielberg loves Twilight Zone. To finish, I started with James Cameron, might as well end with him. There are plenty of arguments that all say Avatar is just Dances with Wolves, Pocahontas in space, Fern Gully, and James said that he thought of the idea yet in another dream. But I'm going to add another one to the list just to piss him off. Did you know Joseph Stefano, the one who adapted Psycho, may have helped inspire Avatar? Chameleon from The Outer Limits is about a man who goes under a surgical transformation to resemble an alien species to find out why they are visiting Earth. Same scenario, different setting, I understand. Eventually, though, the man figures out the aliens are harmless and is invited to live among them on their planet exactly the way he is. Come on, James, just admit most of your ideas are coming from the outer limits. The reason why I did this episode is not to call out these people or label them thieves or rip-off artists. That's not my intention. But I argue you must give credit, again, like I said in the beginning, where credit is due, even if it's minor. Hollywood loves hashing old ideas and making them fresh, but if we just learn from history and acknowledge these works from the past ourselves, maybe Hollywood would have no choice but to open those hundreds of thousands of scripts from artists who have original stories waiting to be told, but they don't want to take the chance on. Supporting those studios that have limited budgets and just believe in good storytelling is the way to go, I think. Thank you, everyone, for watching this episode. Take care.